Mrs. Baljinder Kaur. She is a homemaker, an exotic teacher, a brilliant author. Her voice has the charisma to influence people, and her passion to motivate youngsters make her unlike others. She has done her master's in chemistry and master's in education and won a gold medal in academic field. She has written and directed many dramas and plays like Upagupta, highlighting compassion for social awakening. Saina for environmental awakening. Balle O Balle, touching the core of Punjabi culture. She is a winner of Punjab Teaching Skill Competition and declared as Best Compare. Going beyond academics, she has won state level award in Malikai Kitchen. She has authored a number of chemistry books, Integrated Science, Self-Study and 100% Success. She has conducted more than 300 workshops for students, teachers and principals on CCE, life skills, stress management, subject-specific areas, pragmatic ways of teaching, leadership management, etc. Not only India, but she has conducted number of international workshops as well. She visited London for exchange of curriculum. She is a strong believer of 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration, and thus, due to her intense efforts, she was awarded as Outstanding Nalandian during International Leadership Workshop held at Udaipur in the year 2012. She got Best Participation Award in Speechcraft, a workshop held at Karnal in 2013, and got Outstanding Participation Award in Zone Training Workshop in the year 2014. Her aim in life is to give her best to the students by inculcating moral and social values which will not only make them street smart but complete citizens. She is also associated with multimedia for e-book projects, that is converting the logical text to visual creative learning modules. Madam Baljinder Kaur. Mrs.
Hello everyone. I, on behalf of Evergreen Publication, welcome you all for this science webinar. I hope that today's small span of time is going to be fruitful for both of us, me as well as you. So I would start my session with a small story. The story is about an eagle, the changeling eagle. The word changeling refers to a child who has been exchanged in infancy. When you take a small baby from one mother's lap and keep that baby in some other mother's lap, the baby grows, but baby never comes to know who's my real mother. This is an Indo-American legend, and a brave, he took an eagle's egg and kept it in the brood of hen's egg. The eggs hatched. There were small chicks who came out. Along with those chicks, there was an eaglet. And as the chicks, they searched in the dirt for small insects. So did the eaglet. And they grew the same. The first lesson a child learns is by imitation. So what the chicks did, so did the eaglet. And one day, the eaglet saw a beautiful bird in the sky. A bird with powerful wings. And the eaglet saw the bird fluttering its wings and beating the powerful wind current with its strong wings. The eaglet was really moved by this beautiful bird. And the eaglet comes and shares with the chick. Hey, what a beautiful bird it is. How powerful wings it has got. And what did the chick say? The chick said, "Hey, shh, that's an eagle, the chief of all birds. And you are a chick. You can never be like that." The eaglet thought, "Yeah, I am a chick, and that's an eagle. I can never be like that bird." So throughout the life, the eaglet lived like an ordinary chick and died like an ordinary hen. What do we get from this story? This story teaches us a very, very valuable lesson. We are never aware of our potential. Somebody has to come and help us to recognize the potential we people have. And we have to be that somebody in the life of a child. We need to recognize the child's potential and reveal it to the child. We, as teachers, have to do this because when we make the child aware of the potential, the child will awaken the dream he has sometimes realized or sometimes felt. And this is the way we can bring up the child to the mark where our society and where the parents want to see them.
So moving ahead, we come to the instructional techniques. Instructional techniques are basically those techniques which we give to our students so that they can get acquainted with all the content which is required in their syllabus. These instructional techniques have to be in such a way that they are student friendly. It's rightly said, if the child is not learning by the way teacher is teaching, then the teacher has to learn the ways by which a child learns. So we are all here to learn from one another. So these instructional techniques can be in a lot of ways. So since we have limited resources these days, we at Evergreen Publications have tried our level best to make the best multimedia for you so that you can use them in your instructions and make the best benefit out of it. So we come with the first point, teaching is reaching. Suppose I come here with all my qualification and when I come over here, I start saying, I will train. What did you understand? You didn't get on anything. Because what I was saying, it was not reaching you. Teaching is not exhibiting what you have. Teaching is coming to the level of a child and giving the child what the child wants. So for that, what we can do now in this COVID time is we can use a variety of tools. The tools may be something from multimedia. They can be some oral assessment. Now, I would just give you a demo of that. Like, for example, you start with a class and there are 40 children in your class who are just going to study from you online. There is no need to check the participant. You keep a list handy with you. Keep that list handy and just speak out 2 names. Yes, Anand. Can you give this question? If he's present, he will give the question. If he answers, just put a tick in front of his name. And if he doesn't answer, put a cross in front of his name. That means give a second chance to that child now. So when you ask questions from 2 or 3 students every day, you will be assessing them. The children will be more, they will pay more heed to what you say because they know my teacher can ask me. Then give them some projects. By projects, I don't mean giving them a 14 pages project to write. No, project can be just one answer, which they have to think about. They have to write down in just one paragraph. Whatever you tell them today, whatever you describe them in that session, give them a small project. So write the best what you get out of it. or write something about the tools, write something about the style, write something about the ability, anything like that. Or you can give them a choice. Out of all the topics I covered, just write down one stanza about the topic. If the project is small, the children will pay attention, they will do it. But if the project is long, they will tell their mothers to complete it. Then we come to presentation. Presentation is very, very important. In this presentation, the one complete chapter, once you give the summary, it can be divided into small subgroups, small paragraphs, or small, subtopics, and each child can be given one topic. And every day when you have a class, let one child speak on one small topic for 2 minutes, maybe 1 or 2 minutes. That would make them more confident, and it will just break the shackles of the old society also. The coming scenario also, that can be covered well. Then here I would just like to focus one more thing. Everybody has their own style. If you talk about Gardner's theory of multiple intelligence, Gardner says that every child in the class has a different sort of intelligence. And we people have to find out what that intelligence is. Some children, they learn by seeing. Some children learn by hearing. Some children, they learn by moving their body, right? Looking at the back, looking forth. And some children, they have the mathematic ability. Some children have the gardening ability. So these are 12 different types of intelligences which have been highlighted by Gardner. So teaching online doesn't cater to the needs of all. So when we are using variety of tools, it caters to most of the children. Now, after you have taught, there are some children who cannot grasp what you are giving them. The thing is, because some children are slow learners, they are differently abled, so we need to cater to all of them. There are some children, you give a topic and they will just know all the answers. They will be the first one to raise their hands. But for majority of children, we need to give them a question bank. Some questions, like the same topic, it may come in different forms or different forms of question. The child may understand one sort of question, maybe not, well designed with the other form of questions. For that, still we people are here in Evergreen Publications. We are working with that scenario also. So if question comes tilted in different forms, how will the child attempt? So our self-study, especially for grade 9 and 10, so it highlights all those questions which can come in the tilted form where the answer remains the same. Now I move on to the second point. This involved dynamic teaching method that will be clear automatically at the end of this webinar. Allow peer in self-assessment. This is something very important. Peer assessment is important because it is how people look at you. Right, there are so many teachers who attend my seminar and they can always give me a feedback. That will be my peer group feedback. I will definitely improve on it. There is one more assessment. I have been taking so many webinars from last so many years, but I would come to know, sometimes, the observer might feel this webinar was good, but I know what the drawbacks are, where I was lagging. So that is my self-assessment. And those teachers who go with this self-assessment, they reach to the pinnacle of success. They are the most loved ones in these schools. And we need to give an opportunity to students to improve. That's very, very important. I remember when I was a child, if I would have been given this opportunity, I would have been somewhere else. I would have rocked down the world. But yeah, as a student, I missed it from my teachers. I was always a backbencher throughout my life, from my convent education to my +2 education. It was only after +2, one of my teachers said, "You can do it." And her words, I took it to my heart and I did it. I was an average student, then how I remained a gold medalist throughout my graduation and my post-graduation? It's just because of 3 words of my teacher. you will do it. So I would say there are some children who need us more. Give an opportunity to those students. And once you do all this, you become a role model and you really become the winners of heart. So I move on to the next part. Experiment is the first and the best method whose lessons we never forget. That's so true. जो हम whatever we do with our hand, we never forget. Then how this experiment can be brought about in the online teaching? If we want to bring this, we can just share some videos, some experiments which we are doing to bring about the best in our children. So I would just share one thing. This is Rutherford's scattering experiment. Normally the children of 9th standard feel this experiment is tough. So we just made it very easy for you. Let's just have a look at this video.
Rutherford's gold foil experiment. Rutherford took a very thin gold foil and bombarded alpha particles on it. These alpha particles were released from radioactive polonium. These alpha particles passed through the gold foil and were made to strike the zinc sulfide screen. From the scintillations produced on zinc sulfide screen, Rutherford observed most of the alpha particles passed straight, as most of the scintillations were produced right behind the gold foil. Very few alpha particles were deflected through some angles, as very few scintillations were produced at some angles. Very few alpha particles retraced their path, as negligible scintillations were produced on the front side of gold foil. Rutherford concluded most of the alpha particles pass straight, as most of the space in the atom is empty. Very few alpha particles were deflected through some angles, as nucleus is positively charged. If nucleus would have been negatively charged, it would have attracted the positively charged alpha particles. Very few alpha particles retraced their path. This shows that nucleus is hard and dense.
So now we move on to forced vibration and resonance in teaching. I think all physics teachers might be knowing what forced vibrations are and what resonance is. Forced vibrations are the vibrations produced when some constant force is being applied. So like for example, I bring it to day-to-day life. So if a child is taking swing and somebody is pushing the child from back, the swing moves forward and then it comes back and the mother again pushes it forward and it again comes back. So this is forced vibration. And what does the word resonance mean? Resonance is a technique when the vibrations and the outside vibrations, they match. So that means when the vibrations of the body and the vibrations outside, they match, we say the frequency is same. And when the frequency is same, no external force is required. I will just give you an example now. The child who's taking swing. Now suppose it is a totally windy day and the wind is blowing from the back, right? The wind will take that swing in motion and it will keep it on motion. So these days, what we are focusing on, forced vibration. The parents, the teachers, we are forcing the child, study, work hard, work hard, work hard. We are not meeting them through resonance. So if we meet them through resonance, the frequency will be increased. And then they would really learn, they would really love, and they would really put their efforts into it. I would just give you one example of my teaching period. I still remember I was the grade 8 teacher, and most of the times my chemistry period used to be the last period. And when it was the last period, and I, being a very lenient teacher in my school, I used to enter the class and all the children used to say, "Ma'am, we don't want to study. Ma'am, we don't want to study." And you know what I used to tell them? I used to tell them, "Okay, we are not going to study. You please pack your bag." So they were so happy packing their bags, and then they used to say, this thing used to take 2 to 3 minutes. And then I used to ask them, "What do you want to do?" They used to say, "Ma'am, anything, what you want, tell us something." And that was the time when I used to start with a story. And when the children were so engaged in my story, I used to cover all my topic in linking it with the story. So then they never used to say that, "Ma'am, stop it, you are teaching the content." No, they were made to fall in resonance, and in that resonance, they used to move. And the next day I used to come and I used to tell them, "So we covered these pages the last day." So it's just only our mindset. If we learn the way the child wants to be taught, I think we can bring a resonance in teaching. And I would just show you a video, and then based on that video, I would just, discuss something with you.
Tacoma Bridge, Washington, opened only a few months ago, was built at a cost of over $6 million. But misfortune overtakes the great structure. These are some of the most amazing pictures ever recorded by a newsreel. The actual collapse of the world's third largest suspension bridge. Only a 35-mile-an-hour wind is blowing, but this apparently sets up a rhythmic swinging of the bridge, which increases with each swing. Finally, the swinging road and the suspension cables give way and plunge into the water below. Fortunately, the only casualties were a car stalled on the bridge and a dog.
So it was a huge expense. That was the world's third largest suspension bridge. And it just broke away with wind, which was just blowing with 35 miles per hour speed. And that speed of wind is not too much. Why did it break? Because the wind was blowing with 35 miles per hour speed. That speed brought the suspension bridge into resonance. The bridge started to resonate, started to vibrate with the same frequency. And anything which is blocked, that cannot vibrate with a speed of 35 miles per hour. So it just broke up. If resonance can break such big, bridges, can't resonance bring about the teaching? Yeah, it's just about our mindset. So now we talk about simplification techniques. When we talk about chemistry, we talk about equations. And when we talk about equations are just like, a heaven for teachers and for children. Sometimes, we need to develop some simplified modules. And I tried my level best to make it simplified for the children. So if this concept is taught to the children, I think they will be benefited. So if we have equation to be balanced, that is the combustion of ethane, first thing we should know is the products, and ethane on complete combustion will give you carbon dioxide and water. Then we have 3 elements and they will be balanced in the order carbon, then hydrogen, then oxygen. We have 2 carbon on the left, so we will put 2 carbon on the right. We have 6 hydrogen on the left, so we will put 3 because 3 into 2 will make 6.
Now we count the number of oxygen on the right hand side. 2 into 2 is 4, 3 into 1 is 3. 3 plus 4 will make 7. So I will simply write 7 by 2 in order to balance it. Now the second step is you multiply the whole equation by 2 to convert this equation into a whole number. So you will get 2 molecules of C2H6 plus 7 molecules of oxygen, giving you 4 carbon dioxide and 6 molecules of water. This way, we can just balance the equation in a very, very less time. Now, I'll give you one more reaction to balance. C6H12 plus O2. The products will be carbon dioxide and water. We have 6 carbon over here, so I'll write down 6. We have 12 hydrogen over here, so I will write down 6. Now, how many oxygens do we have over here? 6 2s are 12 and 6. 12 and 6 makes 18. So I will simply write 9O2. The equation is balanced. Now, if we have an inorganic reaction like KMnO4 reacting with HCl, the first thing we need to know is the products. So potassium will react with chlorine to form potassium chloride. Manganese will react with chlorine to form manganese chloride. Hydrogen will react with oxygen to form water. And since KMnO4 is an oxidizing agent, it will liberate chlorine. Now to balance this reaction, we will start with potassium, 1 on left, 1 on right. 1 manganese on left, 1 on right. 4 oxygen on left, so I will write down 4 on the right. We have 4 2s are 8 hydrogens, so I will simply write 8. 8 chlorine are left. We have 1 over here. We have 2 over here. 1 and 2 makes 3. So we need 5 more. So I will write down 5 by 2. The next step is to multiply this whole equation with 2. So when I multiply this equation with 2, I get 2 KMnO4 plus 16 HCl, giving you 2 KCl plus 2 MnCl2 plus 8 molecules of water and 5 molecules of chlorine. So that's the easiest way to balance any reaction. Now, I'll just give one more example. This is potassium dichromate, K2Cr2O7. We treat it with HCl. Potassium and chlorine will react to form potassium chloride. Chromium will react to form chromium chloride. Hydrogen will react with oxygen to form water. And since K2Cr2O7 is also an oxidizing agent, so it will liberate chlorine. Now the next step is to balance. We have 2 potassium, so I'll write down 2. We have 2 chromium, I'll write down 2. We have 7 oxygens, I'll write down 7. Now I have 7 2s are 14 hydrogen, so I balance it by writing 14. Now it is the turn to balance chlorine. We have 14 chlorine on the left hand side. We have 2 over here. 2 3s are 6 over here. 6 and 2 makes 8. Now we need 14 minus 8. That is 6. So I'll simply write down 3 2s are 6. So the equation gets balanced. So if we have equation to be balanced,
so now we move on to the next part. That is skill bill. Skill bill has been added in our books also, especially the junior books. But if the children have to be well acquainted with some experimental methods, we can use the skill bill. I will just show you the first one. So this is an experiment investigating how much water the plants need. So this shows amount of water per day, right? And in the first case, the water given was 5 centimeter cube and the stem length was 0 because the plant was dead. And as we increased the amount of water, what happened was the stem length increased. And when the water was exceeded beyond the limit, it died. The seeds died and the stem length was retarded. So why did the seeds die in first and fifth? because in first cases, right, you can always ask them for brainstorming, and then such questions you can even answer giving your own explanation. Like here, the seeds died in the first and fifth case because in first case the water was very less, and in the fifth case the water was excess, which led to waterlogging. And then why maximum growth was observed in third? Because the water was up to the optimum level which was needed for the growth of plants. Now this is a beautiful example. Sometimes, we cannot depict the things in front of the children, but you can always create a pen picture. So this is to create a pen picture. They'll come to know that in the funnel, what do we do is we add the soils which have to be compared. Right, and then we measure water with the help of a measuring flask, and then water is added to this funnel. So those soils which do not retain water will let the water pass out and the water can collect in the beaker. But those soils which have greater water retention capacity, they will retain that water and water will be over the funnel. So after 5 minutes, we can just find out in the measuring cylinder how much water has passed. So this way, like where actual experimentation was needed, some questions like this can be designed to make the children analyze, draw the pen picture, and then draw the conclusion. And we people here, right, I'm fortunate to say that we people have many brains working out for you people in Evergreen publications. So there is another example. For example, in metal non-metals chapter in 10th standard, we talk about heat conduction. So this is a beautiful example, taking a plastic spoon, a wooden spoon, and a steel spoon, keeping a little butter on it, and these 3 spoons have been put up in the hot water. Naturally, the metallic conductor will take the heat from the bowl of water, and it will get heated up, so the butter and sea will melt very fast. So such questions can just make the children more analyzing. They can just draw a pen picture, they can reason out, they can ask questions, they can ask for justification, and that can really solve the purpose which we are actually missing in science. So this is a beautiful question, measuring the volume of liquid. See, here you just tell them, like, the liquid is poured into the beaker, right? And the yellow coloration shows for the liquid which has been poured out, and the children can easily look at the picture and they can just find out that volume in A is 10, volume in B is 30, and they can compare the 2 volumes and they can always give you the answer, right? So which has got more, right? And suppose if you add some amount from B to A, right, they can have the equal volume also. So we come to the experimental learning. I really feel, bad about the science, because some things we need to show it to the children, because what we see, we never forget. This was what we talked about. But now we have an alternative way, and I would just tell you something about this experiment. This is ammonium dichromate. Ammonium dichromate is an orange compound, and when you just give a little spark to it, an exothermic reaction takes place. Exothermic reaction is the reaction in which a lot of heat is produced. So once this exothermic reaction takes place, this orange color compound changes into green color compound, and then we have 2 gases coming out. One is nitrogen and one is water, which is in the form of steam. So this nitrogen and steam exerts a lot of pressure on the green colored compound, and it emerges out in the form of a fountain. I will just show you this, video. So this is the orange color compound which has been taken in the class. So this was something about the chemistry where some experiments can be demonstrated to them through the audiovisual aids. Now we come to binary fission. This is the method of asexual reproduction, and you people are teaching it in class 10, right? And this is the most common question asked in the board exams. So there is a beautiful demonstration of this binary fission also.
To study binary fission in amoeba. Amoeba divides by the process of binary fission, in which nucleus divides, resulting in the formation of two independent nuclei followed by cytokinesis, that is, division of cytoplasm to form independent daughter cells.
Now, this is the topic osmosis, which is in the grade 9, and it has been highlighted in the books, and most of the children find it very difficult to understand. So I would just show you a video which will just create a pen picture and make them more familiar with this concept.
Osmosis, the diffusion of water molecules through a semi-permeable membrane from a region of high concentration to a region of low concentration, is known as osmosis. Let's understand the process with the help of following experiment.
To start the procedure, take few raisins with stalks. Weigh them using weighing balance. Let's assume the weight of raisins is 8 gram. Now, place these raisins in the petri dish having water. Keep it for few hours. What do you observe? You must be thinking why the raisins have swollen. Raisins are swollen because water is absorbed from the petri dish. Now the question arises, why the raisins absorb water? To answer this question, let's move back to the initial state of raisins when they were kept in the petri dish having water. We observe water is moving from the petri dish towards the raisins through the semi-permeable membrane of raisins. This is because of two reasons. First, due to the lower concentration of water in the raisins, water moves from the petri dish to the raisins. That is, from the higher concentration to the lower concentration through the semi-permeable membrane. The second reason is that the size of water molecules is smaller than the sugar molecules of raisins. Therefore, water molecules are able to pass through the pores of semi-permeable membrane, and thereby raisins are swollen. If we keep these raisins for long, they burst. This is so because the water continues to diffuse in through the outer semi-permeable membrane of the raisins. This influx builds up internal hydrostatic pressure which reaches a limit, such that the outer membrane of raisins does no longer hold and burst.
Now we come to a physics topic, electromagnetism, which the children find it very difficult. If I talk about why I just to choose this small, presentation to put in front of you, I would say because when I was a student and when I was doing this chapter, these were the things which I found it very, very difficult to retain. And that's very easy. If I talk about 6, we will have 2 multiplied by 3 to get 6, right? So if you multiply 2 into 3, you get 6. If you divide 6 by 3, you get 2. If you divide 6 by 2, you get 3. So that means if you have 3 digits, 2, 3, and 6, by using the correct mathematic symbols, you can get the product, right? And you need to have 2 numbers to get the third number. This is what electromagnetism is. In electromagnetism, we are talking about just 3 things. What are those 3 things? That is B, that is F, that is I. What is B? B is the magnetic force, magnetic field. And if we talk about F, F is the force. When we talk about force, we talk about motion. And I stands for current. So if we have the three things, B, F, and I. So if you have a suitable combination of two, you can produce the third. I will just show you how to remember. So the whole chapter of electromagnetism, which is very, very difficult for children to remember, that can be remembered in 3 words. Yeah, here I made a Hindi mnemonic, but of course, I can just explain you the English version. That is BV, free I. B stands for BV. BV means the wife. Free means free. I means she comes free. So this is the way how we can remember. And B is the one which stands for magnetic field. So if you want this magnetic field, you need to have F and I. If you have F and I, you can produce B. How? See, F into I will make B. What is B? B is the magnetic field. So if you have a wire, and in that wire, current is, being passed. If current is passed into that wire, it will generate a magnetic field around it. And this was the first experiment how this electromagnetism was proved by the scientists. He was not proving about electromagnetism. He was not doing anything about electromagnetism. He just found it. Like when he used to switch on the wire, current in the wire, and the current used to flow, the compass, the magnetic compass which was kept close to it, it started vibrating. It started, showing that there is some magnetic field being generated. And how are we using it? We are using it in cranes. So whenever we want a strong magnetic field, we switch on the current and automatically a force develops which creates a magnetic field around it, and then it converts it into an electromagnet. So the electromagnet, it picks up the particles, take it the other side, and then you switch off the current, one of the component goes away and the things come down. The second is B into I. Now we take B and I and we can generate F. So what is that? You are using it daily. The motor, the fan has a motor too. The blenders have a motor. The mixers have a motor, right? And you have a motor where you put on and the water goes into your tank. What is it? It has an electromagnet inside it. It has a magnet. And when the magnet has this B, B means the magnetic field is already prevailing. And when you switch on the current starts to flow, and the combination of B and I creates a force. And this force is actually associated with the motion. And it can be the motion of the fan, it can be motion of the blender, or it can be motion of the water up through a electric motor. So now the third one is, if you have B and F, you can have I. What is I? I is the current. So when you have magnetic field and when you pass some force into it, the current is generated. Now I would just talk about generator. So if you talk about generator, it has got a huge electromagnet fixed into it. There is a huge electromagnet, and then when the light goes off, there is no electricity, there is a power cut, you just on the, what do? You just on the switch. What happens? That switch puts in or pours in the diesel or fuel into the drum. And inside this magnet, there is a drum, and that drum starts to rotate. So when that drum starts to rotate, we have B. B is already present, but that force is generated with the diesel, and it starts to rotate. And this rotating drum inside an electromagnet produces the current. So in this whole chapter is divided just into 3 parts. And in the first part, we study about B. The second part, we study about F. And the third part, we study about it. I. So if the children know only these 3 points, they can be, they are easily able to generate their own answers. Now, this was a thing which I always used to forget. When in the exams, I had to answer about Fleming's left-hand rule or right-hand rule, I used to forget left-hand rule is for what and right-hand rule is for what. I knew both the answers, but that used to create confusion. So I took a word which is known as flower. So from the flower, I could just remember the 2 things. So if it is L, we are talking about F. That means if we have a left-hand rule, we find out the force. So what do? We apply the left hand rule to calculate the force. And where is the force being generated? It is being generated in the motor. And similarly, we can remember the right hand rule also from flat. So if we are talking about right hand rule, we talk about E, and E can be related with the induced EMF. And what is the induced EMF? That is current only. So if you have to apply the right hand rule, it is applied to generator. Now, how does the question comes over here? The question is sometimes asked like, how is Fleming's rule applied to generator? So if the question comes, you just get confused. But if it is generator and we have the right hand rule, so you can simply make your own answer. That's the best and the easiest way to remember. I would just show you a video of it.
When the current is passed through the armature, a magnetic field is produced around it. This magnetic field interacts with the magnetic field of the magnet. As a result, the armature begins to rotate.
So that's the way the small things can be, remembered, or we can just conclude with it. So now we move on to the last part of this webinar. Many of life's failure are people who didn't realize how close they were to success when they gave up. I would share my own example. If I talk about my daily life, I would say how I used to feel it. If you know, we take the buttermilk and then we separate the cream out of it, and then cream is converted into butter, white butter. So in our house, especially in Punjab, what we do is we have that cream separators, and we used to do it with the hand. So it was often, I was newly married, and for continuously 5-6 years, it kept on happening with me. I used to churn that butter, cream to make it butter. And, my hand used to get tired and the butter never used to come up. And it was at that point, after churning it for half an hour, I used to feel badly, and I used to think, no, it's not my cup of tea. And then I used to hear my mom's voice, my mother-in-law's voice, and she used to say, give it to me, I'll do it. And, I used to clean my hands and give it to her. And what she used to do? She used to give 2 churns to it. And, we used to have butter. I was always, hesitant about it. I used to think about it for the first 6 years of my married life. I used to think, why it is mom? Why isn't me? And then, next time she called, she said, give it to me. I said, Mama, please wait for 2 minutes. I want to do it today. And, I did 2 or 3 churns and the butter came out. I still remember that day was the happiest day of my life, because for the previous years, I used to feel it is not my cup of tea. And that day I found that I was always close to the success, but I gave up. And that was the day when I gave a vow to myself that even if I am a constant failure, I will not give up. I will try till the last phase of my tenure. And I think that wow gave me a chance to present my webinar to you. And I hope during this webinar, if unintentionally I hurt somebody, I didn't come up to your expectations, I apologize, but I'm sure I will never give up. Next time, we will be there again with you with a better seminar, with a better webinar, and something with the life skills which will make our lives better. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you so much for your patient listening. Thank you so much for all your time. And we, through the Evergreen publication, thank you for your unconditional support. Thanks, Sata.